Groovy.
Hey everyone, welcome to Horror After Midnight. I'm your host Slinky, joined by my good buddy KC, and we have a special guest with us tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Royce Freeman, a filmmaker out of Florida.
And we're going to discuss Scream because I'm a Scream diehard fan. I know KC is he's up there, and Royce too. We're all pretty big fans of this movie.
Oh yeah, I love Scream.
Oh, Scream's great, man. Like I don't know, you hear people now and then they say, "Oh, you Scream," they don't like it. I adore it just because of what it did. What it did to the horror genre.
It was very meta, very meta. It broke the fourth walls. It did this whole satire thing, and it knew it was a film, even though it didn't acknowledge it directly. But the fact that Randy is telling you all the rules, and then then even after he says, "And don't ever say you'll be right back," and then Stu says, "Yeah, I'm gonna go for a beer. You want one? Yeah, yeah, I'll be right back." Ooh, dead man. So
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
being
Randy's
funny.
one of us.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, that's
exactly. It embraced the horror fan, completely. And a big reason I like it is that up to that point, horror was like, okay, if anybody like really liked horror movies and stuff, they were all right. Scream embraced the horror fan, and it included it into the movie, but it knew that the fans of these movies had lists and they had stuff that you could do and couldn't do, and it was fun to see that put into a horror movie. Like, it was really cool. Like you said, it was self-aware. It was very self-aware.
and the fact that they put the cast of Party of Five in the movie, basically. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, Nev Campbell's in it, and it's not exactly the same thing, but Kevin Williamson wrote "I Know What You Did Last Summer," and then that had Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Love, Sarah Michelle. Yeah.
So you started to put TV stars in these, Scooby-Doo, whodunit horror movies, which is Agatha Christie stuff. You got these 10 characters, and one of them's the killer, and it became a Scooby-Doo movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, that's good, Chris.
Well, which is funny because in Scream 3 they play up the idea that they're the Scooby and the gang trying to solve a murder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is all right? Because I was going to say Agatha Christie's a favorite author of mine, and so I think that's one of the reasons I was really drawn to it. Being a huge fan of giallo films, I love the fact that they went and pulled and had two killers. That was really cool because to me that's a throwback to Blood and Black Lace. That's my all-time favorite giallo film, and
that's something you don't see a whole lot.
Yeah, it's really, the one thing I do hold against Scream a little bit, and it's like, oh, you dirty bastard, is that the horror movie film posters, once Scream popped out that poster where it had the whole cast and, Scream, blah, 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 the tagline and everything, a lot of the horror movies after that, and up until now, they still do it. They just copied that image. We kind of lost those glorious paintings of horror movies from the 80s and early 90s.
Are you talking about the ones that like Drew Struzan did? All those.
Yes.
All the graphic art posters, the Indiana Jones and Back to the Future, and all the ones that in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Drew Struzan especially, but even not Drew Struzan, even those even cheesy ones from the 80s. Like Richard Corbin drew the Spookies poster. And
that's great.
That's a gorgeous piece of art. And so I kind of miss those iconic images from the video boxes, because those images would lure you into checking out the movie, and
even Friday the 13th, they had great posters.
Well, especially the first one for Friday the 13th. That's a gorgeous piece of art. All the detail in the woods, the cabin, the moon, and it's all encompassed by the silhouette of the killer. That's an amazing piece of art.
It's funny. The trailers for those Friday 13th movies, the Don LaFontaine,
yes. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, all the classic 80s narrator, and then they started to do that in the 90s too. but you don't have this sensational popcorn theatrical circus in movies today as much. And they're starting to have a throwback because you got Stranger Things and retro is in vogue and really popular. But when I was
80s
a
is
kid,
huge right
yeah,
now.
yeah, when I was a kid, all that the like movie soundtracks, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Superman soundtracks were always these big overblown symphony kind of. The theme was this bombastic big thing,
Yes.
Yeah.
and the superhero movies started to bring that back, but
Mhm.
for a long time, movies soundtrack themes were not these overblown things anymore. They kind of downplayed them, and now they're becoming big again.
Yeah.
But that was the part of my youth was those big bombastic
Oh yeah,
soundtracks.
absolutely. Because what is it? Danny Elfman for especially I think Darkman, the '89 Batman and Darkman. That those two scores were done by Danny Elfman, and
Yeah,
they're just like you said. They're just blasting and they're in your face and like they get you pumped because of the march in the beginning. And I
and
think that
Beetlejuice, and
yeah. Oh
Beetlejuice.
God, Beetlejuice. That's my favorite Danny Elfman track actually is Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
And
and
so
Scream, they have one song that plays "Youth of America" right
yeah,
before you
say a
get in
prayer
the
for the
house.
youth.
That one is awesome.
But like it's you're right. I think a lot of the horror movies they were muted to a point. And not to say they weren't there, but it was just they were downplayed a little bit. They were just there for like ambience, not to accentuate scenes in the movie or stuff like that.
there's a
But
song that plays in every single Scream movie, and it's a different remix, but it's called Red Right Hand.
Red Right
Yeah,
Hand, Dave. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
and he uses a different version in each movie. It's not the same version.
Oh, see, yeah, see, I didn't know that. I knew the Nick Cave song was in, but I don't think I ever caught that. Wow.
Oh yeah, it's in every Scream movie. I don't know if it was in the fourth, but it probably was. But each movie he uses the song Red Right Hand.
Mhm.
But and it's always either a different part of the song or it's a remix. But
Yeah.
it's always in the film.
Wow. All right.
yeah. I never noticed that. I knew it was in the original.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, yeah. What was it? Crap, I was gonna say something. All right, now see, growing up, because I'm an '80s kid, and then growing up in the '90s. To me, it's just my opinion. Horror was kind of vacant, like in the mid '90s. There really wasn't
Yeah,
a whole lot go like in the Mouth of Madness.
Well, Doctor Giggles and Leprechaun. I mean, there was some stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
And
not
the and
saying
the the Warlock movies and the direct to DVD, direct to video stuff.
the first Warlock's really good. I like Julian Sands. But like, I don't know. New Nightmare came out, and that was supposed to be one. It's a Wes Craven film, so of course checked it out, and it was kind of like I not a big fan of New Nightmare. I think it's kind of hokey.
it was all right, but
Yeah, it has its cool parts. Don't get me wrong. Wes Craven will always be Wes Craven. He will
oh
always
yeah,
be amazing to me. But so when this came out, I'll be honest with you. When I first saw the trailer for it, I was like, you know. But then I saw it. Then I went to the theater and saw it, and like, it was such a breath of fresh air. I think, especially because what we said before, it was self-aware. There was a character in the movie that had rules because I knew these type of people because I was one of them. I was, blah blah blah.
yeah.
Um,
I've seen this before.
I forgot where the hell I was going with this, but it was so fun to see a horror movie that was kind of poking fun at itself a little bit with the tongue in cheek and kind of wink wink nudge nudge. Um,
Yeah,
so I had no idea it was going to be as huge as it was because I know they popped the second one out. I think it was less than a year later after the first one came out. It was like
yeah.
within
1 year later, yep.
yeah, it was like within 12 calendar months. So it was just crazy. But what another thing that made me laugh about Scream is that the the mask, the whole idea of the costume.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it doesn't matter what the killer is wearing because the viewer, us, we're going to project whatever we want or whatever comes to mind onto that image. So it doesn't matter what, kind of what they wear. And I think they were aware of that because I had that damn mask I bought like 2 years before Scream at a craft store because I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
And then here Scream comes out and there's Ghostface. and now he's one of the boogeymen. He's up there with Michael and Jason.
Oh yeah, he's one of the guys.
Yeah, so I always thought that was really cool that they just took something that literally, the Halloween route. They just went and found something in the store, and here you go. Now he's an icon of horror movies. Thought that was really cool.
What's funny is there was a series on the Biography Channel or the History Channel called Inside Story, and they would they a lot of times they did it on famous movies. They did it on Halloween. They did it on
yeah. So
yeah, they did it on Scream. Dan Herons directed that documentary, and when they interviewed the guy who played Ghostface, the voice, they blacked out his face just like when they interviewed Tony the Tiger stuff. They keep your face dark, and they interviewed him, and the reason for that is for two things. First, he looks very boring and non-assuming. So they never wanted anybody to see his face because he's really not remarkable looking. And
it's like Peter Cullen with Optimus Prime.
So they want people to see what they want to in their mind. So they didn't want to ever show people what his face looks like. And also when they shot the scene with Drew Barrymore, he was in the house on a landline phone and called her live on the set, and then they recorded the voice again in the studio for him. But she was always receiving the calls. It wasn't like the script girl off camera reading lines or something. She's
really hearing that voice. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
She never saw his face, and with very little exception, the voice of the guy is exactly what she heard. They didn't have to do much processing to make him sound much different. That voice, hello, Sydney.
That's chilling, man.
That's his voice. That's not a processed computer. Do you want to die, Sydney?
And he's like a very iconic voice.
Like, oh yeah,
and it's easily mimicked. Like I could do the voice of "Do you want to die, Sydney?" It is very easy. Just like when the movie when Tom Hardy played Bane in the last Batman thing.
Yes.
Batman, do you want to it's very easy. It's very easy. It's easy to mimic Bane. It's easy to mimic the Scream guy because the voice is so iconic, but it's simple. It's very easy to mimic.
But he could do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool. But that's what was it? I was going to say, I've said this before about Scream, and it's one of the reasons I love it. Scream shows you what two motivated horror fans can do with a cell phone, a knife, and a crappy Halloween costume. It shows you what potentially. I mean, please, kids, don't get any stupid ideas. But that's crazy, man. That's crazy. But
very realistic.
Well, the fact that they were two guys that were willing to go to great lengths to do what they wanted. That whole scene in the kitchen where the two characters are stabbing each other. Most people, if they really want to be honest with each other, when it comes time to facing a gun in your face, would piss their pants.
Yes.
These two guys are willing to get stabbed in the gut and keep going. Most people are pussies, when it comes time to, and these guys have brass balls. Yeah, these guys are stabbing each other and still going strong, and these guys are nuts.
Yes,
they definitely are.
I always like to say Billy Loomis is a little more off his rocker than Stu. I think Stu was just kind of looking for a good time, like a thrill kind of thing.
Yeah,
peer pressure.
Peer pressure. I'm way too sensitive, but Stu's my favorite out of the two. I think Stu is just hysterical, man. I really do.
I love the actor. He's funny he's even funny in the Scooby-Doo movies where he's playing Shaggy. I mean, Matthew Lillard's just a fun guy.
He's a great Shaggy, and he's a good actor.
He was great in 13 Ghosts.
Yeah,
and the guy that plays Billy is on Riverdale. He plays the sheriff. He's still a good actor now.
Yeah. No, I always thought he looked like Johnny Depp, like a
little bit
Johnny Depp kind of thing,
Yeah.
but they were perfect for the roles. I think they couldn't have casted, you know, though it's one of those films where everybody was casted in their role and everybody plays it up. Just, you know, you couldn't ask for anything more.
It's a perfect cast. I mean, Courtney Cox plays a bitch so well because on Friends she's such a lovable person.
Yeah,
and then she plays Gail Weathers, and she's just the worst. And Nev Campbell is so sweet, and David Arquette playing, because it's funny. They wanted him to go in for Billy on an audition, and he just said, "I'd rather play Dewey." But because as written, Dewey was supposed to be a chiseled Fabio, just hunky guy, and he says, "I'd rather play Dewey." And they were like, "Wow, that's actually, we had never thought about Dewey being this goofball before, but it made the character more interesting than just being a Chippendale stripper, you know."
Yeah.
See, and just the idea of Dewey being, kind of like, he's kind of like a bumblefuck.
Yeah.
To me, that was a harken back to the officer in the original Friday 13th, when he comes out there at the camp and he's like, "Oh, we're not going to stand for any weirdness out here." That guy's a goofball. Like, that guy's a nerd, and so that I totally, thought of that when I first saw Deputy Dewey.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
there's a whole trope that Kevin Williamson, grew up watching the '80s movies. There was the trope that was in all those movies that whoever the main character, their parent always went away on a trip and left them alone. And sometimes, if you watch like The Prowler or something, the dad is the red herring. The dad went away on the trip, and something happened in the past that involved the dad, where he was, his girlfriend was murdered. Kind of like if you watch Night of the Creeps, how Tom Atkins' character was involved in what happened in the past, and it sets up the parent to be the red herring. In Scream, in the '80s, the parent usually, but in this, the dad went away and they couldn't find the dad, and they just, he ends up, tied up, and it's not the dad.
He ends up being a suspect at one point. I remember that, because they couldn't locate him, so they're like, "Well, hey, maybe it's him,"
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it was genius that there was two killers, because they basically, it was a get out of jail free card. They always made sure that Billy or Stu were never around. If one of them was the killer, then the other one had to be in the scene or around the scene to never suspect them. That way they could pull that rabbit out of their ass later. It's like, oh wait, there was two killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that made me think about Blood and Black Lace, because when the police come and take Cameron Mitchell into custody, well, that's Eva Bartok. She goes and murders somebody. So it's obviously not Cameron Mitchell, so he's off the hook. And loved it, man. Loved it. It's kind of a love letter to the horror movies of the early '80s. Absolutely,
yeah, they did the same thing. They
the first movie I saw that.
Yeah,
first movie I saw that had two killers was a movie that it had two killers, but they weren't working together. Was Tenebrae. And you have the author is losing his mind, and he's I don't know if he's supposed to be transgender or what, but in the movie, it shows him having dreams where he's dressed as a woman, but it's kind of like Norman Bates or even Dressed to Kill, where the character is just in drag. But it's also, there's the critic. The film critic is also a killer, and they're not working together, which is crazy.
Yeah.
See, like there's a couple Argento flicks that are just off the chain when it comes to just, I don't know, like, wouldn't say, well, yeah, I'd say originality. Like he was just testing stuff, man. Like I think a couple of his films are very experimental when it comes to, like, let's try this, see if this works, kind of thing. Like how was I thinking of? Like The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. You take that, for example. Yeah. Husband's trying to cover for the wife because he knows what she's doing. So it's like there's not necessarily two killers, but he doesn't want anything to happen, to his darling wife. And so there's some themes that Argento did that are pretty wild that I think Scream borrowed from. but there was a lot of stuff it borrowed, we'll say, but it did it in a tasteful way. It didn't do it to like mock it or, do it in a silly way, make fun of it or anything. What was it? I don't know if a lot of people know this. I'm pretty sure Royce knows this. The Gainesville Ripper murder case was a big influence on this. Yeah. Being a Florida resident.
What's his name? Kevin Williamson said that he was house sitting for somebody, and he started to hear weird noises, and he wasn't sure. You kind of project in your mind when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You think you're in a horror film, and he started to hear these noises. So he says, I wrote the film when I was house sitting, imagining that I was alone, and I started to hear noises, and then he thought of When a Stranger Calls, and he says, well, what if I received in Black Christmas? What if I received calls that were menacing, and what if it turned out they were coming from inside the house? Mm-hmm. So he borrowed from those movies, and then he said, well, what if I do a old-fashioned slasher movie, but with the MTV generation, as the kids, He said there hasn't really been a really good horror movie in a long time. Yeah. And apparently there was a bidding war, and all these different people were trying to bid on it, and they kept talking Wes Craven into wanting to do it, and he kept saying he didn't want to do it again because he tried to not do all that ugly violence from his youth. And apparently a young kid, a little kid, went up to him at some horror convention and said, "When are you going to do something that kicks ass again?
Yeah, that's right.
You're getting soft, And he was like, "Well, damn." Right? So then he decided maybe I am getting soft. So that he did Scream, and the violence in that first scene where the guy is disemboweled, and then she's hanging from a tree.
I couldn't believe that was even included in the film. I thought the MPAA would have jumped all over that. So
they did.
Yeah,
they never released it. They never released this version on Blu-ray. But if in the '90s they were releasing some movies like unrated on VHS, and the unrated VHS of Scream is the director's cut. The reason why that shot of revealing more hanging from the tree is, where it's like jittery, is because they sped the shot up and they removed every other frame, so it went, But in the way he shot it, it was just this long, just smooth push in, and you just saw, But they said that you can't do that. It's kind of like in Taxi Driver, where they said that they thought the blood was too much. So he said, well, fuck it. I'll just make it black and white, or I'll desaturate some of the color. And by muting some of the color and making the blood look kind of black almost, it made it more unsettling. But the MPA was like, okay, that's cool. And then Scorsese's like, Scorsese was actually happy that they made him do it, because he's like, I think it's more disturbing now.
Yes, yeah. Well, like in Evil Dead 2, there's the scene where all the holes in the floors and the walls are spraying Bruce Campbell, and they used all these different color fluids. But then when they use the black fluid, I think it makes it more disturbing. It's kind of like, Jesus,
Yeah.
So they always skirt that stuff with, like when with Kill Bill, when she takes on the Crazy 88. That whole scene's in black and white, and I think it adds to it. It adds that noir.
If you watch Jason Goes to Hell, when the coroner is poking and prodding, he's like, it's filled with a black viscous fluid.
Yes.
It's even more unsettling that it's this sludge.
Yeah,
it's not red.
It's fruit cocktail and stuff. I've talked to Adam Marcus about that scene, man, and he's just like, "Oh, we put everything we could in there, man." Like it was, but they purposely muted the color, and it really turns your stomach more, I think. So
yeah, it's pretty gross.
Wow. I am an advocate for the red-headed stepchild of many franchises. There's a lot of films in franchises that they don't get enough love, and maybe some people should love them more. But like, I like Friday 13th Part 5. I think it's sleazy as shit.
I love that one.
I like some of the Halloween movies that don't get a lot of love. I know that Slinky said he wasn't a fan of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's not my favorite, but I appreciated what he was trying to do because the movie's about censorship. The movie
No,
is
I
trying
totally
to
get it. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
gonna
totally.
and put him in the real world, which is, it's a
Yeah.
cool concept. I just, my own personal thing, I don't think it was pulled off right. But I'm a huge Nightmare 2 fan. I love Nightmare 2. And,
I
it's
I
finally
think
getting
that
some love now.
oh yeah, I mean it's a the way the writer calls it, he says Jesse is the avatar for Freddy.
Yes.
Freddy is using Jesse as his human
You've got the
avatar.
body, I've got the brain. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's creepy, man. And that whole
And
pool
and
scene,
the whole
just
movie
murdering.
was written movie was written on purpose, even though the guy when the co-producer was like, I didn't understand what we were making, but the writer was like, the whole movie is gay on purpose.
Yes, yes.
It's
There's
a
no
it's a
undertones in that
it's
movie.
a
It's right
metaphor.
in your face,
I mean, the coach
Yeah, he
is
goes to the gay
goes
bar
to
dressed
a
like a
leather
leather
bar.
cowboy.
Yeah,
Like,
the way Freddy kills him is he beats him like bondage.
yeah,
Um,
cuts his
Jesse
back in the shower. It's gnarly, man. It's gnarly.
Jesse has a game in his bedroom called Probe, uh, and he tells Grady, "There's something inside my body, and it's trying to come out."
The whole there's that scene where Clue Gallagher. I love Clue Gallagher.
Oh
He's his
yeah,
dad. He won't let Jesse go out until he cleans his room. So there's that whole montage, but there's like the crotch shot, and it's just wow. It's like an '80s hair band music video, man. The whole movie, like, it's crazy. Um,
I haven't seen it yet, but the Scream Queen documentary that about Mark Patton.
I
Apparently,
Yeah, I
it's
haven't seen
really
that
interesting.
yet.
Well, he wrote a book. I talked to him. I think it was last year in the comments on Facebook. He wrote a book from Jesse's perspective about like the nightmares and stuff he was having, and as that character Jesse. And it was like I wish they would have had that book when the movie came out because it's really cool. He was posting excerpts from it, and it was really neat to read the book like that because that kind of explained more of what he was doing at the time, I guess, like why he did it explained more of his actions and like why you have a smoking girlfriend but you're going to go to Grady's house. Like, what the hell is wrong? Like,
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
even Grady says that because he's like, he says there's something inside my body and it's trying to come out. And he goes, he says, oh yeah, and you want to sleep with me?
Yeah, exactly. It's nah, but like Nightmare 2, I'm really happy it's starting to get noticed by or embraced more by fans and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you know that
it is,
there's lots of films where you find out later that they had to replace an actor that the Robert Englund plays Freddy in the first movie, but the first movie is not the franchise. They didn't know they had a franchise. So when they were trying to save money, because once an actor becomes famous after the first movie, he tries to get more money. He tries to get more money for the second movie. The studio didn't want to pay Robert Englund, so the scene where the coach gets killed in the shower is shot with a different actor than Robert Englund. And once they saw the dailies, they're like, "This is horrible. We gotta change this." And if you actually watch that scene, he's kind of like Frankenstein. He's kind of stiff. He's not moving really like Freddy. Same thing with Friday the 13th Part 6. The paintballer sequence is not C.J. Graham.
Not C.J. Graham. Yeah,
it's Doug. It's this guy Dan Bradley, who's actually a stuntman then, but he's actually like the second unit director for all the Bourne Identity movies now.
Wow.
But what they every time they try to do an interview for those documentaries, whenever they try to get those actors that were fired, sometimes they're like, "Oh, I'm happy to do an interview. What's this about?" And as soon as they go click, because they're like,
bitter.
"Yes, yeah, you screw you, you fired me." Like, good luck ever getting an interview with Eric Stoltz about Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you'll ever do it.
Well, there's the thing about Jason, where Kane Hodder, he had played him 4 times, and then they went and got Ken Kersinger for Freddy versus Jason. Now, what's funny? I love Kane Hodder's Jason, man. He's not my favorite, but I love his Jason. The thing about that, though, is I guess Ken Kersinger will actually watch Freddy versus Jason, and he will say he brought new, fresh stuff to the role. And it's like, no, you didn't. You just walked around like Frankenstein. That's it. That's all you did. Funny thing, I don't know if you guys realize this. I think I told this to KC. Ken Kersinger is the cook in Jason Takes Manhattan that Jason throws over the bar, smashes the window. So we kind of got some Jason on Jason action, but
and Kane Hodder, the one shot where Jason falls onto the train tracks. He didn't want to. He didn't want to do that stunt. So Ken Kersinger actually did that stunt in Jason Takes Manhattan.
See, I didn't know that. Wow. All right. Yeah. And then what? And I guess Kane. I felt bad for Kane, man, because when they hired Ken Kersinger, they were like, or Kane was like, "Damn, I kind of trained that guy. Like I trained my replacement." It's like, oh, sons of bitches. So, but
you know what's funny is that people in the studios, they like to rewrite history. Like they make a bad decision, and they tell somebody to do something that is going to go against what the fans maybe want. Later on, when people do interviews, the person who was told to do it tells the truth. Oh yeah, he made me do it. And then the other person says, that's a fucking lie. Like Sean Cunningham telling Adam Marcus to take off the hockey mask out of the movie. Yeah. Sean swears up and down that's a fucking lie. And that's what Adam Marcus...
documentaries. That's... Come on, and what stinks is Sean Cunningham likes those hockey mask checks. So just get out of here with that shit. Man.
Oh, of course. And there's a lot of movies that do that. They make a choice. The replacement of Kane Hodder. There was an interview, like as an example, on the Never Sleep Again documentary and the Crystal Lake Memories. Ronnie Yu says, I had no problem with Kane Hodder. It was the studio's decision. But there was an interview with somebody, I don't remember who it was, said, no, that was the director's choice. That was the director's choice. It wasn't New Line's choice. The director said, I don't like him. I'd rather have this. So
they said it's kind of chubby and something like that. I know what part you're talking about. Yeah, but it's
they wanted Jason to be really tall, and they wanted Freddy to be comparatively be really short. And if Kane Hodder played him, he said we wouldn't have got that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Well, they could have put lifts in Jason's shoes because they did that anyway in Kersinger. When you look at his Jason, I got his figure too. Don't get me going on Jason, buddy. The figure has like 5-inch lifts, man. So it's like, come on, you guys are goofy. Well, just that branch off of Scream because we've been all over the place. But it's it's Scream, man. I forget where I was going with this. I forget what we were even going to do for the second part, but it's all good. We're having a good time.
Well, I know that with
Scream.
One thing we didn't mention before, sorry to interrupt you, is when they cast the movie, because sometimes they always say that this movie doesn't get green light until they have a star, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They cast Drew Barrymore as Sydney.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She was the star. She was playing Sydney. Mm-hmm. And about 3 weeks before shooting, she says, "Oh my God, I have a brilliant idea." And she says this to Wes Craven. She's like, "What if I'm Janet Leigh in Psycho? What if I'm literally the girl? What if I'm literally the girl at the beginning of the movie that you're focused on for about 20 minutes and I'm killed off?"
That's the survival girl. That's your bet. Yeah. That's your safe bet.
Yeah. You're killed off at the beginning. She says, "What if you just kill me off at the beginning of the movie?" Yeah. And at first he was like, "What? No." But then he realized the value in that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we definitely should do that."
Uh-huh. I can hear Alfred Hitchcock saying in that interview where he's like, "Why don't we kill the star?" And it's
nobody expects that.
In the theater, people were losing their fucking minds when that happened because for that generation, like the MTV generation, nobody ever seen that before. So it was all and people went kind of crazy, man. There were people throwing their popcorn cartons at the theater at the screen, But that was I thought that was a terrific nod to Psycho because Psycho is one of the granddaddies of slasher. And again, it played stuff so well. What did you had a bunch of factoids, Chris, that you were gonna run off?
I do. I was also gonna say that the character that plays Steve was originally supposed to be Billy.
Okay, that's right. That's right. I remember one time, I think Ben Affleck he auditioned for a part in the movie for Billy. Yeah, he was trying for Billy. I don't know. I don't know. Batfleck. I don't know. If it would have been a good choice for the movie. So,
Well, Scream was released in 1996 with a budget of 14 to 15 million, and ended up doing 173 million at box office.
that's crazy. That's crazy. You know.
It's funny is that Wes Craven is he's done all those classic movies, and Kevin Williamson's on the set, and he's seeing all the blood spewing everywhere during that kitchen scene. And he says he's getting queasy, and he turns to Wes Craven and says, "I don't know. Do you think we need that much blood?" And he says, "Well, I don't know, Kevin. The writer says these two people stab each other in the fucking gut. How much blood do you think I should use?" And he goes, "All right, I'm gonna shut up."
Dude, I can't even fathom questioning Wes Craven. He shot the Johnny Depp bed scene, man. Don't roll with it. Let him roll with it.
Wes Craven is literally. I've heard people use this as an example. I don't remember which rock band it was, but there's certain rock bands that every decade they redefine the genre. Well, Wes Craven, he owned the 70s with Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. And in the 80s, he does it again with many other films, but most notably Nightmare on Elm Street. And then he does it again in the 90s.
90s, yeah.
Every one of those 3 decades, he basically was horror royalty.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he's a legend.
Last House is hardcore when you watch it. That's a exploitation movie. The only scene I would, if I could put that movie into a computer program and just edit something out, it would be a better film if you removed all the stupid goofy shit with the cops and that lady that had the chicken coop. So it's silly, man. It's silly. And it has the guy who runs Cobra Kai. I can never remember his name.
I mean, so even Wes Craven said when he lost, because it was his first movie, so he didn't know what he was doing. He said when they did the remake of Last House on the Left, he says he picked a filmmaker that was very talented and artful. He says, if this movie is getting remade, I want somebody with an actual vision to tell it. He says, He says, I got lucky with telling the movie the way I did, but there were flaws. He says, I want someone who's going to get it right without the flaws.
Well, plus filmmakers, when a filmmaker has something to say, it's always, I think it's elevated a little bit, not just stuff and stuff.
The original is the classic, but the remake is technically a better film.
Yeah, it was better crafted. In the 70s, they just kind of slapdash that stuff together to a point. But what is it? David Hess. He's terrifying. But go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. We got open discussion, man. But you can tell we're hard, man.
I was going to say a few things. I mean, it was pretty cool seeing the Fonz as the principal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Henry Winkler's on.
You had Wes Craven playing the janitor, dressed up as Freddy Krueger with the original costume from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I wasn't talking to you, Fred. That's so good.
And did you notice that it was meta because I don't think she meant to say it wrong, but because the what's his name, Dewey's sister, because she's not into horror movies.
Oh, Wes Carpenter. Okay.
Yeah, she just says Wes Carpenter because she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. But it's funny that
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, some Wes Carpenter flick. Yeah.
So we're in some Wes Carpenter flick. It's the throwbacks to that movie are just they're really fun. Like Chris said, when Sid types in the address on the computer, right? You said they cut that out.
When she's getting ready to call 911, she types in her address is 34 Elm Street, but they cut that out.
Oh,
see, they should have put that in, man. That was a nice touch, That's one thing Behind the Mask, Leslie Vernon got so well when they did. They did all those throwbacks to the classic horror movies, and they were really, well done. So
Yeah.
That movie fooled me because for the first half of the movie, you're hearing what the killer's plot is and motives and stuff.
Mhm.
And he's laying it out for you exactly what he intends to do.
Well,
And
he
the girl,
tells the girl, he goes, "You'll know what I want you to know." There's that one
and
scene, and
and
yeah,
there's and the reporter lady, she's having a scene like where they're upstairs barricaded and she's talking to somebody and she realizes, wait a minute, I'm the final girl.
yeah, she's the survivor girl. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
She realizes, she thinks it's all about the kids, and she realizes that it's all a charade to
Mhm.
push her to go from being this wafy virgin to being the final girl,
Well,
and she's
she's
like,
head in the
oh
apple.
shit, oh shit.
Tells her it was always you. It was you, Taylor. It was always you. Yeah, it's good. That movie's amazing. So, but go ahead,
That
man.
one and Tucker and Dale versus Evil are some of the movies that I just can't
I love
can't
that
get
one.
enough of.
That movie's so fun. That movie's a lot of fun. So, but
But
yeah,
yeah, I
you
just
got
think
you got
like
more
with
notes, man.
the original title being Scary Movie,
Yeah, yeah,
and
that's
later
always
on we got the comedy that came out. But
well. Like the first Scary Movie is really solid, dude. Like I'm a
yeah,
real big fan of the first Scary Movie. It's really
yeah, I'm
funny.
gonna watch it after this.
But the end of that is my all-time favorite because they the whole Usual Suspects thing, but like that's a badass ending, man, even for like a spoof film. It's really good, really good. All
What's
right.
usually usually the first movie of any kind of idea? It's the first idea, and the
Yeah.
first idea is lightning in a bottle. It's fresh and new, and then when they try to do sequels, very
Mhm.
rarely does a sequel ever improve what the first movie did. It sometimes
Except
happens,
Aliens and Terminator 2 and Predator 2.
absolutely.
I will
Yeah. Oh
fight
yeah.
someone over Predator 2. I love that movie. You
No, I love Predator too. I love it equally, but I see I can, I mean, and I love the first one. So the second one, for it to be equal to the first for me is a big deal. But be like Bill Paxton being the sleazy guy. Hey, it's my specialty, and the girl
Well, Bill
squeezes his
Paxton, he
balls.
gets killed by a Terminator, an alien, and a Predator. Like he's royalty.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. you know.
And
So
then he's in True Lies and he pisses his pants because he's like, don't kill me, I'm a pussy.
uh, sorry, you got more notes, man, or I know you do. You got
I mean, I got a bunch. If you want me to go over them?
yeah, throw out a few more.
Let's see. We got Roger Jackson doing the voice of Ghostface. You already said this. The mask was found in a Halloween store.
Yeah, yeah.
We have the Linda Blair cameo as a
Yes,
news reporter.
that's right.
So
She's
that's
in the
pretty
movie.
cool. Then we got what was that?
See, we went open discussion, so I think we hit a bunch of this stuff just by
Yeah.
just by
Uh,
accident.
Dane Farwell actually plays the stuntman of Ghostface, and the actual killers in the movie only one time did they actually ever play the killer, and that's Billy. And the scene when he's standing right behind Randy when he's watching Halloween. That's the only time one of the killers that Randy or Stu or Billy actually plays the killer.
Yeah. Wow. Because yeah. There's something I was gonna say. I know. What's funny about the guy who did the voice for Ghostface is, from what you said before, they hit his face for so long,
Yeah.
and now he's going on tour and the horror con circuit. So it says you can go to a horror con and you can meet Matthew Lillard and you can meet so and so, the voice of Ghostface. So it's funny how that stuff changes because what Peter Cullen does the voice of Optimus Prime. So when you think of Optimus Prime, it's Optimus Prime, this giant robot who's all about liberation and da 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 da.
Yeah.
Then you meet Peter Cullen, and it's this little tiny kind of old guy, and but he sounds like fucking Optimus Prime when he talks. You're just like, wow, that's crazy. So it's
Peter Cullen did an interview where because up until like Brando being in Superman and then Jack Nicholson in, it started to become trendy for stars to be in these popcorn films, yeah. And when Peter Cullen was asked to do the voice of Optimus Prime in the 80s, somebody had said to him, because I guess he was friends with Nimoy and Orson Welles and
yeah,
big people, And I guess Nimoy and Orson Welles were also the voices in that 1980 something Transformers movie. And when he was cast to play Optimus Prime, he said this to one of his friends, they want me to be in this movie and they want me to be a voice of a fucking robot, you know? And he's trying to figure out, he's this big, huge, monstrous machine.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of voice should I do?
He's a Mack truck. What do you think a Mack truck sounds like? You know?
And his first idea was to play up the scale of the machine, and someone told him, no, underplay it.
Mm-hmm.
The machine is so huge, you need to sound like this. Just sound like somebody's uncle. Sound like a voice that is meant to be fatherly, that you're there to actually give advice and be a teacher and actually be the voice of wisdom. Don't try to sound like a monster and big hulking thing. Sound calm, and it'll actually. It's kind of like the Michael Myers mask, and you can project what you want onto that blank mask. Peter Cullen sounding so neutral inside of the body of a huge machine actually it amplifies what he's doing.
Absolutely. And then what Orson Welles did, what is it, Unicron. All right, talking about Transformers. But anyway, back to Scream. I don't know. All right, let me ask you guys this question, because I asked Chris this the other day. Who do you think it was that actually killed Drew Barrymore's character? Do you think it was Billy or Stu?
I think that they're both in the house.
Okay.
But I think that maybe one of them killed the boyfriend and one killed her. But it probably took both of them to hoist her up into that tree.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think, nowhere in that first scene is nowhere in their first scene does it require the audience to be like, oh, he's over here. So exactly. It could have been both of them. It could have been both of them.
Could have been.
Yeah.
And being that it was Stu's ex, and a lot of girlfriends are involved in this movie, I'm thinking Stu.
Yeah. Very well. It could be. And then the thing is, you got to figure, this is their first go. This is this is the money right now. We are starting to murder people to implement our plan. So I was
besides Maureen Prescott.
Yes. And so, look, we're going to avenge or get back at Sid's mom for whatever. So I was thinking it probably was the two of them, actually, because the first kill is Steve. Actually, they kill him in the back, and then they go for Casey. So it's and
I would say watch the movie. I'd say watch the movie again, or because I have the Blu-ray, I'll pop it in too. But watch the first 10 minutes again, or 15 minutes, and try to keep track of the geography of the house, and see if the killer is popping up in places that he could never get to in fast time. Well, if the killer is behind her and suddenly he's in front of her, then there's two killers there.
Yeah. The part there's two parts in Scream that always made me laugh out loud. It still does. When Ghostface is in the supermarket following them around, like the guy's in full costume in a grocery store. Nobody notices this. And then I guess it's the bathroom. When she's in the bathroom, Ghostface is in the stall. And so it's kind of like, whoa, well, but hey, slasher film rules. So,
there's another part where he's like in the woods, right outside of the school.
That's right. And let's see. I don't know. Oh, but yeah, random factoid. The house, Stu's house in the movie, is now offering tours for Scream fans to go and visit. You can walk through Stu Macher's house, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty neat.
That house is huge.
Yes, it's a beautiful house, but it's gigantic. So,
Yeah, I love the garage scene.
Oh, Tatum. Man.
Another girlfriend.
Yes. I think that's one of the only movies I've ever seen somebody kill the garage door, actually, in that way.
It was kind of funny while filming. There were different people who were going through the little doggy doors to show you actually could fit through there.
And that's the first garage door I've ever seen that didn't have an automatic stop with You know, the waiters. It's whatever. It's a horror film. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah,
one thing.
there's horror movie logic and there's real logic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's a horror flick. You know, people go to movies obviously to escape. You know, so you have to
Yeah.
go suspend your disbelief for 95 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, but
So
that garage scene is like every teenage boy's like favorite scene when she walks into that garage.
opens the door. Hey, you like horror movies? Bink. Headlights are on. So
No, I like the fact that the killer when she says, "This is the part where I die," and he's like, "Am I a helpless victim?" You know, like he nods in one direction, he turns his head, he nods it. It becomes funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I love when she starts chucking the beers at him.
Yeah, yeah.
One of them wasn't. Apparently, they said it wasn't planned. Like when she actually hit him in the face, one of them wasn't supposed to hit him in the face.
They look like they hurt, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
But what was it? There's there's that scene in the beginning when he actually gets Casey and he goes to stab her. It kind of looks like some hesitation there, a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just real minute part. And another part that always makes me laugh is after he does kill Tatum in the garage door, the way he exits the shot, like he just kind of like, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
neat how he does
Check
it.
out.
There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie, man. A lot of nice touches. But yeah, Scream. I'll say when it came out, after it came out and made all the money it did, they couldn't make Scream 2 fast enough because that came out, and then it was, I think, in 2000, Scream 3 came out. And what's funny is until Scream 4 came out, Wes Craven, I think to my knowledge up to this point, was the only director to direct all three entries in a horror trilogy. He was the only one to ever do that because he helmed all three movies.
Well, except for I don't know if this actually counts, but Sam Raimi with Evil Dead and Army of Darkness.
Oh, yes, that's right. I am wrong.
Yeah,
Damn,
that's true. Yeah.
that's right. Totally forgot about that. See, I'm slipping in my old age.
There's not many of them though.
Yes,
No, there's certainly not many of them. The movie mixing genres, it being funny and scary, was fresh. Did you notice that the beginning of the movie, there's no titles? The movie, the movie just opens with, just says the word "Scream,"
Yeah.
and then it starts, and as soon as Sydney is killed or Casey is killed, it cuts to just right away. It cuts to Sydney. There is no directed by, written by. None of that stuff is till the end of the movie.
That's
true. Anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. When like all the kids are talking about them getting killed, he says, "The liver's in the mailbox." After that, it cuts right to Sydney getting off the bus, and she checked her mailbox.
That's funny. I don't know. It doesn't give it away, but when the kids are all by the fountain and you can see Billy, you can see Stu, and it's like, to me, Billy jumped right out at me as that's a shady fuck, right?
Pretty creepy looking dude.
Yes,
he's
so good, man.
But did you notice what they did was genius? They set up Billy to be the first suspect.
Yeah.
They made you suspect him long enough, and then what they did was they showed the killer in a scene near where Billy was to be like, "We're gonna make you think he's the killer," and then, "Oh shit, he must not be the killer because here's the killer right here," and then
custody. Yeah.
They made him seem like the killer so much that when he was locked up and a murder happened, then it's like, well, he must not have been the killer because one of these killings happened when he was in jail. Yeah. So, or rather, Sydney got the phone call when he was in jail.
Yeah, that's right.
So, so what happened was, because of doing that, you make everybody think he's the killer on purpose, which he is the killer, but you make him think he's the killer so much that when you pull back and make it, well, he can't be the killer.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know who the hell could be the killer.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
so who done it?
And they never make Stu seem like the killer.
No, that was total left field, man. Total left field. Yeah.
Yeah, he just seems like way too goofy.
Yeah, You know?
Although I don't really know who it could be. I mean, there's more red herrings in the sequels than there is in the first. Because once you don't think it's Billy, you're like, well, who could it be?
Randy.
They with the sequels. I read an interview where, because back in the '90s, everybody was trying to find leaked scripts online and stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody leaked the script for part two when it wasn't even finished being written, and it forced them to rewrite the whole script.
Mhm.
And they had a different ending. It wasn't going to be Mrs. Loomis. It was going to be Cotton Weary, I think, or something, where he actually was the killer. But they're like, you. Even Wes Craven says, "You little fuckers ruined my movie." you know.
I actually like
Yeah.
it that Cotton was never that he really had nothing to do with it. He just happened to have sex with her mom. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Really,
cool.
But it wasn't what it wasn't what they planned.
yeah,
The original script for Scream 3 was going to take place in Woodsboro. They were going to be making a movie, but it was going to be in Woodsboro. And like even Scream 4, I think they changed who was going to be the killer. Every one of those movies, because it's a whodunit, they keep
yeah.
screwing around with who it is.
Well, see, I don't know. Like I said, I love Agatha Christie books, man. And
Yeah.
my favorite story from her period is 10 Little Indians, and then there were none. So, but like, what was it? The
All right.
whole what is it? The whole Roman thing.
Yeah.
Now, the way they explain by the end of Scream 3, it's like, all right, so he was actually behind all of it. He actually
Yeah.
got Billy and all them motivated to do all that stuff. So it's just like, Jesus Christ, man, what are you guys doing?
I'm a director. I direct.
Yeah, I direct. That's right. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just cool, man. It's just cool. I like it because it, harkens back to all the movies we love dearly. We're running out of time here, fellas. So, what are your last words on the topic? Let's see what everybody thinks.
R.I.P. Wes Craven.
Yes.
Rest
Yes.
in peace.
Yes. He's sorely missed. So what's
Yeah.
anything to say about it, Chris? Scream?
Scream, if you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
We just ruined the movie for you. We ruined the whole thing for you, I think.
Yeah. Awesome
Yeah.
movie. One of a cult classic. I mean, it'll be around forever.
Yeah. I was gonna say whether you're a fan of it or not, you have to respect it. You have to, acknowledge what it did. And it actually, like I said, it's to me, it's a love letter to horror films,
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
So,
And just like any movie that's a seminal work, and there's always a bunch of copycats. Love it or hate it, this
Yeah.
movie is directly responsible for every one of those teen horror movies that came afterwards. I Know What You Last Summer, Urban Legend, Valentine. Without
Yeah.
Scream, those movies wouldn't exist.
Exactly. Scream, it broke the mold to a point, and it took that genre and turned it on its head. All this stuff, and
Right.
it always makes me think. Don't fuck with horror fans.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So, but all right, man. That's our Scream topic or Scream
All right.
discussion.